Hey there, ADHD Goals listeners. Before we get into today's episode, have you ever tried productivity tools that claim to be ADHD friendly, only to find that they're just like all the other neurotypical ones? Yep, me too. That's why I created something different. It's called the ADHD Canvas. It's a visual mapping tool that helps you make sense of how your unique ADHD brain works. And in a 90-minute one-on-one intensive session with me, we'll use it to figure out what's really going on behind your procrastination, overwhelm, or stop-start patterns. You'll finally have that aha. That's why I do that moment. So when you can see it clearly, you can finally understand how your unique ADHD brain works, and you'll have access to over 50 executive function coaching tools to help you build a rock-solid action plan that will help you reach your goals. Sessions are limited, but as listeners of the ADHD Goals podcast, you get to jump the queue. So just tap the link in the show notes to book your 90-minute ADHD Canvas intensive session, and let's get you unstuck. Now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of the ADHD Goals podcast. Now, if you have ADHD, or for many of us with ADHD, the dream can sometimes be working from home because the office is too noisy and too triggering, or we might want to actually start our businesses for ourselves because we just can't fit into those everyday jobs. So here we are, we're working from home, and then all of a sudden we are hit with a whole load of distractions and a whole new world of problems. Who out there knows what I'm talking about? I, for one, have suffered from that as well. But lucky for us, our guest today, Steven Puri. Now, he has spent 20 plus years leading remote teams, and here's a pretty impressive roll call. First as EVP at Dreamworks, yes, that one, and VP at 20th Century Fox. And he's also been 3 times a tech CEO. And along the way, he has picked up lots and lots of skills and learnings and stories about what makes it successful to work remotely. And he also runs a community of over 34,000 productivity-minded people in the Sukha. And so, welcome to the show, Steven. How are you doing?
Well, happy to be here for those listening in their cars or at home or at the gym, wherever they are. I hope this is a very engaging episode for you. I hope there are some actionable things you can take to maybe make your life a little better. I'll tell you the thing that I think will be interesting about this episode is because I have experience both managing creative teams, in film, as well as managing teams in, tech. There are a lot of principles that, Lawrence and I have talked about that we can illustrate in really fun ways. And that's how this thing happened, that you may have seen the movie or seen the TV show or something like that. So hope this is super fun. And thank you for having me on.
Well, it's a joy to have you on. And so I guess it would be nice to learn a little bit more about you. And first of all, not only have you done all these wonderful things, but you have ADD, right?
In the process of creating the Sukha Company, a number of ADHD coaches are in the community. And one of them approached me at a certain point and said, Steven, have you ever been diagnosed? And I was like, no, I have not. She's like, I'm just going to call this one. You should probably go and find out because I think you present in a lot of ways that are ADD, right?
Yeah.
Not so much presenting the hyperactivity, but a lot of the other ones. And I did. She was spot on. Ariana Bradford, by the way, she runs ADHD Done. And she was absolutely right. So how coincidental that I created a platform to help me focus. And I have ADD.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's reassuring, I think, because a lot of people, maybe if they're coming to their ADHD journey later on in life, certainly they've experienced it all their lives, but they haven't been able to understand or put a label on it. And usually, or typically, they might be coming because approaching this journey because they're stuck. And I think sometimes it's reassuring to see that there are people out there with ADHD or ADD who have managed to, on the surface, appear to lead successful lives. And I suppose we'd really like to tap in to what has helped you to. We were chatting just before we pressed record, and there's a synergy between both of us. We tend to focus on our weak spots. So productivity, I'm presuming, has been a challenge for you. So tell me about that.
It has. Well, first, let me say that I look forward to more successes. I think the story is being written. I've had failures and successes. Probably the biggest success is I'm going to be a dad this fall, which I'm super excited about. I hope I do it well. I hope I don't drop my son on his head. Let's hope for the best. So that said, let me tell you that I know that necessity is the mother of invention. For me, pain has been the mother of invention. And I'll describe a couple of things. I would love to know if you've experienced these too, which I've heard you talk about in other episodes. And of course, anyone listening in their car can nod their head and they're like, yes. One of the big problems that I felt, one of the pain points I felt was what I now call the cold start problem. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to at 9 start the thing I need to do that's important and get to work, blah, blah. And at 9:15, I would find myself returning emails, maybe didn't need to be returned, or scrolling or something like that. Have you ever done that? Not start on time and find yourself procrastinating?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that would be a daily occurrence. It's
Me too.
only recently started to change because, again, built a system out of necessity to engage me in what matters. But yeah, carry on.
So true. Okay. So I had that problem. And the pain of it was a little bit in the morning would be like, oh, it's 9:30. I'm like, I said I'd get going at 9. I need to do this thing. But even worse at the end of the day, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't finish. I'm awful. I'm a bad person, and then tell myself the lie. Oh, well, I'll get up early tomorrow and finish today's work tomorrow before starting tomorrow's work. And that's just dominoes through the week where it's like, and then Tuesday night, you don't finish Tuesday's work. And then Wednesday, that sort of thing. This really bothered me and got me down on myself. And so I did the thing of, asking the whys, like the layers of the onion you peel back, right? Okay. So I'm a smart enough person to know I can say I'm going to start at 9 a.m. tomorrow, but I'm not. So what happens at 9 a.m.? Well, I procrastinate. Why? Well, I found that I felt overwhelmed. Okay, well, why do I feel overwhelmed? And when I dug down, it was one of two things, sometimes both. It was looking at my task list and saying, oh my God, there's 17 things on here. I'm not going to get all 17 done before my, 11 a.m. with Lawrence or something, and it almost becomes paralyzing. Yeah. And, if you have neurodivergence, having 17 things staring at the face can also lead you to thinking you're going to multitask and jump around. You don't finish one thing, you do another, and just a whole bunch of problems, right?
Yeah.
And the other part of the overwhelm was sometimes there was something on the list that was just, there's no way to accomplish it in this, next session, write my book. I'm not going to write the book between now and 11 a.m., but I wrote it down as if it were a task. And you did a great episode talking about breaking things down into granular pieces, and time blocking. So I'll tell you what I did was built, a little website that I use and a lot of other people use now, where you can have your task list. It'll save all your tasks. And there's a bucket for this session. So when I start my day, I can go in there and my smart assistant, an ALM, an AI, will look at my task list with me and say, hey, it seems like these are the 3 priorities today. I can say yes, or I can say no, actually, this is more important. This should be one of my 3 things. And then as soon as I hit play and it, blocks my computer and my, flow music plays and all the nice things happen, right? I can only see those 3 things. Mm-hmm. It hides the other 14. So I don't do the bounce around and try and like multitask on stuff. And suddenly it becomes much more doable. And I'll mention this. After we built this thing where when you start, it just shows you your top 3 things. Mm-hmm. Our members are 77% more likely to finish all 3 than before when they could see all 17. They would do 2. And it's just simply that thing of paralysis of there are too many things to look at. I'm overwhelmed, or, let me multitask and try and pick things off the list and do them out of order and things like that. And the other thing is if my smart assistant sees that there's something stupid on there, like design the new app, write my book, it does exactly what you said in your episode. It says, hey, you know what, Steven, great goal. Why don't we make a task that's more granular? Like outline chapter 3. I know you did outlines for chapters 1 and 2. It took you about 30 minutes. Why don't we make a task today? It's just outline chapter 3 in 30 minutes. And, like you said, once you start to time box, it really helps you overcome that, again, neurodivergent sense of there's 2 times, there's now and not now. Suddenly you're allowed to say, oh, you know what, in 30 minutes, I can do this. And it begins a cycle of feeling good as opposed to feeling bad. And that, for me, was a huge part of starting my day. There are other things we can talk about, but that's a very painful one for me, of just like, I'm sick of having 6 o'clocks where I'm like, I didn't get it all done. I'm an idiot,
Well, I absolutely agree with, I've done all those things, part of the procrastination is because I'm not looking forward to this mess of a to-do list. And what I found recently, or what I've tried to build into my current workflow, is the way you start your day is rather dependent on how well you finished the day before.
True.
As in, you identified this, which I still do, is I put a task on the task list that is an entire project or even a business that I've decided I'm going to start.
My restaurant. Okay, that should take an hour.
And so you can start going through that task blind to the fact that this is a project, and you will keep going because we're resilient. But if you then finish the day with it unresolved, that's what causes the next day to say, there's something about the starting tomorrow I don't like. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is that by actually putting in like an alarm to say, check out of the afternoon, I can then say, I've not finished that task. Why haven't I finished that task? Oh, because it's a massive project. Okay, right. So I need to break this down. So then you can forgive yourself, give yourself a chance to say, no, you haven't failed because you did X, Y, and Z. If you'd have counted those as tasks, you would have actually done loads. But you don't see it as doing loads because you didn't do that one big thing. Yeah. So
it is very true. Something else implicit in what you're saying that I want to hang a lantern on, which is you can build self-reinforcing cycles. You get a cycle of 6 o'clock. Oh, I didn't finish. I'm a terrible person. I'm not good at what I do. And it's just like the negativity breeds negativity. And you bring that into the next day. Or you can build a cycle of, wow, I set these granular, specific things. I knocked them out. I decimated my task list. I feel great. I can't wait to get into tomorrow. And those things perpetuate. Like the messages you tell yourself are powerful. That for me was a really big one. Whenever, I don't know, you and I talked about this, but I named my company the Sukha Company. Sukha is a Sanskrit concept. And my wife and I met in yoga, right? I married the girl to my left on a yoga mat. I met 10 years ago in Manhattan. And we have a daily yoga practice. It's part of our life. I love the 1 hour where I can't even think about anything else because I'm just trying to balance, and not fall over and look like an idiot in front of the car. And it's physical and it's spiritual and it's like really good, right? So we got married, went on our honeymoon. Bali is a really nice place to go if you do yoga. It's like very chill and yoga barn and all the yoga culture there, right? So we're going there. I told Laura, I was like, you know what? We have a working title for this app that I'm building. I wonder if in these 10 days we're away where no one's going to bug me, if like the universe speaks to me and gives me a great name, the way Amazon's not really about books. Nike's not really about, Greek gods, sort of thing, or about shoes. So she said, I wish that for you. So we got there and I said, I think for my unconscious mind to bubble this up, maybe I should speak to a couple of my early members and just say, like, what do you like about this? Like, how does it help you? And I didn't know I was ADD at this point, right? Mm-hmm. So I did 3 like quick Zooms. The third Zoom, I was going to the wrap up. We were like, "Oh, Lawrence, thank you. I just wanted 10 minutes. Really appreciate your time. Tell me, thanks for telling me about your favorite features, the Pomodoro timers." Right? The guy said to me, and he's still a member. He said, "Steven, you asked the wrong questions." And I was like, "Okay, what was the right question?" He's like, "You should have asked me why I pay you." And I was like, "It's like 30 cents a day. Like, it's not a Birkin bag. I didn't know that was a big deal." He's like, "Let me tell you something. I found I can have 3 o'clocks where I'm playing with my kids. They're 2 and 4. Or I can have 6 o'clocks where I'm like, where the hell did the day go?" He said, "The difference is, did I start the day with your app?" He's like, "So I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever."
Mm.
And I was like, wow, wow, thank you. Gives me a lot to think about. So I have dinner with Laura that night. The first night I was like, oh my God, I spoke to this guy who's more articulate about what I'm doing than I am, right? And she's like, that's really good. So at night, she said to me, you know what it is? He handed you that concept that we hear in yoga, Sukha, the happiness, like when you feel self-fulfilled, when you're in your lane, doing something, you're good at it, and you can do it with ease. She's like, you asked for the universe to speak to you. It did. And I went to bed that night from my phone. I looked to see, is the Sukha Company, the happiness company, available? And I just bought the domain from bed that night. And that's why I named the company this. So to bring it all full circle, it is these circles, it's these patterns that we train ourselves in. Either I'm an idiot, I'm no good, I can't focus, and that perpetuates, or wow, I am really good at this and it feels good. And I want to have time in the afternoon to play with my kids or go windsurf or whatever your thing is. Obviously, I'm thinking dad in 5 months, 4 months.
There was so many things in there that have started new threads of questions. But what I did
Let's
like,
go.
but what I did like was the moment when the guy turned around and said, "You're asking the wrong questions." And what I liked about that is because it resonates with something that I feel strongly about in terms of a learning mindset. You had set yourself the task of saying, "I want to ask these questions because these are This is information that I need to know." And then he stopped you and said, "No, you got it wrong." And at that point, it's not a perfect analogy, but you can think of other situations where that has happened. That could immediately be a red flag to you and say, "Oh, failed." And damn, that's not great.
Yeah.
But you can sort of roll with it, and say, "Oh, okay, I'm going to learn something new here. And this might actually take me in a better direction." And I think that forgiving learning mindset, being open to the fact that you're not failing, you're learning how to go forward better.
Yes.
Because I was literally having, to tie the two things together, what we were talking about earlier about, a never ending day or a massive project. I was trying to I'd get through one of those big tasks. And I realized I'd written a massive to-do list for this one task. And I had to tell myself, oh, I need to change what my expectations are here. I am not going to create the perfect system right now. In order for me to succeed and get this task done, I need to say, this is what I know now, and this is what I don't know. So I'm going to leave myself like the opportunity to go through that process when it comes and figure out what it is. And I will write that down as what it is. I don't have to build, all the boxes and everything and make it a polished thing. Because I think the fear is that if I put something out there that isn't perfect, people are going to say, this is rubbish. And it's not. And perfectionism, again, is one of those huge things about procrastination. Because if it's not perfect, you're scared of putting it out.
Yes.
But it's an opportunity there to learn from the feedback, and it's a growth mindset. And I think if we can
growth mindset is a concept. Yes. It all works in progress.
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder, what else can you tell us about? Because when you started describing some of the tools that you got within, am I assuming that the tools all belong in the Sukha community, or is that something else that?
Yeah, there are a ton of things in the Sukha that are developed. Obviously, I needed help because of ADD, right?
Yeah.
So all the things I mentioned, the focus music, the timers, the tasks, the smart assistant, it's all there. But there are some things that you can do for free. You don't need any apps. And by the way, there are a lot of great apps out there that are not mine. Like, find the one that works for you. But let me give you an example. And this is one that I noticed early on in my film days, which is, as you know, I worked on Independence Day, producing the digital effects for Independence Day. The director and producer and I had set up a company to do this. So they had come off doing like Universal Soldier and Stargate, some of the movies. And Roland, the director, loved this house, this villa down in Puerto Vallarta. I've never been there. Beautiful white marble with the thing and the pool and all that. And they talked about they would go down there to write their scripts, right? They would go block it out for a month and just live down there. And they talked about in the morning, the light comes in over the pool in this one room, and it was very inspiring to them, right? So when they were going off to write, this one, Roland asked his assistant to book it.
Mm-hmm.
And she came back and said, someone's already booked it this month. Because it's like an Airbnb kind of thing. It's like whoever gets there first, right? And it was around the office like, oh my God, what's going to happen? This is like their thing, right? And Roland ended up buying the house. He called his attorney, was like, buy the villa. By Monday, he owned a villa in Puerto Vallarta, and whoever was renting, they were not there. I don't know where they went. I'm sure they were paid nicely to find a new villa, but they were gone, right?
Yeah.
And the guys went down and wrote, and they wrote the third highest grossing movie in film history at that point, right? It was their thing. And what it taught me when I was talking to Dean, who was the writer-producer, I was like, so tell me more about that. He's like, well, there's something about being there in that space. We've kind of trained our minds that that's where a lot of the business part of film falls away. We're not thinking about our agents. We're not thinking about what actors, what dinners we need to go to, what premiere. She's like, there's something about being there. We've retrained ourselves. We get in there and it's writing mode. And all we think about are great movies we've seen, how those characters in those scenes worked, and how do we make a similar thing work in others. I was like, oh, it's super interesting. Can I tell you, I have seen that true so many times when you start to train your mind about here's how I do something. And it doesn't have to be a luxury villa. I'll tell you this. When I was working with Alex Kurtzman and Bob Worsey, when I was at Dreamworks, they've written how many billions of dollars at box office? Transformers 1 and 2, Star Trek, Mission Impossible 3, Zorro, The Island. I mean, like incredibly successful writers, right? When they got down to, that crunch time, they had their assistant rent a room across the lot because we were on the little Amblin compound on the Universal Studios lot. Right across the street was the Universal Hilton. They would rent a room there. And it's not a luxury property. I'm just going to tell you, it's where you go and stay with your kids when you're going on the rides at Universal Studios, right? It's like serviceable. But that was where they would go and write Transformers and stuff like this. And what I realized was they had met back in school. So that kind of room, I think, evoked dorm room for them. One of them would be sitting on the edge of the bed with the laptop. The others at the little desk writing on their laptop. And that was their way of getting into that state. So the reason I share this is absolutely free thing you can do at home. And it corrects an error that a lot of us make, which is, suppose you are working remotely. You can say, this is a space where I do X, whether you're a blogger and you write, or you are an accountant, or whatever it is that you do. But you start to not just do that freely wherever. Like I used to work in the kitchen in the morning and then at my desk around midday. And at the end of the day, I'd be on the sofa, right? And it was sort of a chaotic experience. Whereas now when I'm going to do a certain kind of work, I come here to my desk and I sit, and my mind immediately falls into, oh, we're here. We're not thinking about the laundry. We're not thinking about, going to yoga later. We're not thinking about this. We're very focused. And it's amazing that the brain responds to little cues like that, the same way music can bring us to a place. So I share that as just a free tip. Some people also use aromatherapy as a trigger.
Well, it reminds me of a story that I have quite often told because I heard it, and I don't know if it's true, but I've heard it a few times, and I've never actually spoken to somebody who's actually perhaps worked as close to the vicinity of this world. But I heard that Walt Disney used to have 3 rooms where he would basically process his ideas. And I'm assuming, because it was Walt Disney, that these rooms were physical, not metaphorical.
Right.
But he had one room that was where anything is possible and nobody is allowed to say no. And he has his ideas and he goes, this could be this, this could be this, this could be this. And then he takes that idea into the next room, which is to say, that won't work. And then he changes his mindset and he says, no, this won't work because of X, Y, and Z. And then in the third room, he says, well, if it won't work, how can we make it work? And so why that struck me is because I think there's lots of things there, but the room that you're in can shape your thinking, but also the importance of pushing everything else away that is likely to stop you from having an idea or an innovative idea, and the importance of having people in the same, like, like if you're doing improv or something like that, it's yes and, rather than
Correct.
no, because as soon as somebody hears the word no, they shut down and go, oh, well, I'm not going to have another idea because I don't want to embarrass myself. And so if you can reassure everybody, we're going to get to the bit where we're going to find out how much it's going to cost. But let's dream a little bit first.
Yes.
And I think it's really important. I think that maybe in the story that you're saying, there's an element of we feel the possibility in that room and let's make it happen.
You know what? The 3 rooms thing, whether it's apocryphal or not, that's really interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Worked in film for a while. It could be true, but the idea is absolutely amazing. Like, that's great. I like that process, even if they're metaphorical rooms.
Well, even if it's not true, you could steal it and say,
Back when Walt Disney and I were young, this is what we would do.
The kitchen is where I have my ideas. The office is where I say that's not going to happen, and then in the garden is where I fix it all up.
Yeah. Oh my God, can't even tell you. And I'll tell you, one of the things I noticed about the sofa was I associated the sofa with being relaxed, somewhat lazy, scrolling, like those sort of behaviors. And that I wasted more time on the sofa because of that association. And, let me be super blunt. Some of the best paying jobs, if you are a UI, UX designer, a behavioral psychologist, and engineer, developer, are for companies where their business model is steal your life. Full stop. That is their business model. I would like to steal your life. I'd like to sell it to this advertiser and I will keep the money. Thank you for your life. And that's astounding when you think about it. And for that reason, you have really beautiful, beautiful user experiences that are designed to keep you addicted. Near EL, has written some great stuff on internal and external triggers. And if you fall victim to that, which I've done that thing of like, well, I'm just going to scroll for 5 minutes, and like 35 minutes go by. And you're like, oh, wow, I kind of lost momentum. I blew a hole in my afternoon because I just sat down for a minute and thought, well, I'll just do this as a break. That's a big one. And it's really hard. Like, a lot of why I'm doing what I do now and why I speak, so frequently is to share ideas, to say, hey, like, get your life back. Don't put your life in the hands of people who are just going to sell the days of your life, because no matter how rich you get, you can't get more time.
Exactly. And it reminds me of, jobs that I've had where definitely, if I don't know whether it was the culture that, as you put it, the culture demanded that, or whether because I didn't know I had ADHD at that point, it was just my trying to paper over the cracks that I just couldn't stop.
Sure.
And it reminds me also about what you said, that a member of your community said to you, is that, it gives me back my life, my time with my kids.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to find where that line is, where I can reassure my, my chimp mind to say, no, I have captured all of those things, those ideas that you keep throwing up there. I've captured them and I will get to them, but they don't need to be right in front of me right now. And because I think that's when you can find yourself continually working, because you don't know when it's going to end, or you don't feel like you're achieving what you need to do to deserve that break. And so I think what I'm trying to say is, if you can find yourself a reliable system that allows you to have those whims and those ideas, but not make that idea a priority, but reassure yourself that it's safe. You don't have to think about it. It takes it out of your brain and keeps it safe somewhere for another time. I think that can sometimes be reassuring.
Yeah. There's
No.
some research around the Zeigarnik effect and that concept of like, how many things do you hold in your memory? What do you write down? How do you organize it? And I'll
Oh.
tell you, it is not inconsequential. It's a bad double negative. It's consequential. There, somewhere my eighth grade grammar teacher just became happier. The amount of energy that you spend holding things, like holding a task list in your mind, it's really helpful to jot it down, whether you use pencil and paper or you use an app, whatever, but
Mm,
get those things down. And then once they're down, it also helps you with that step of prioritization, which, you've talked about.
mm,
Knowing where you start is really important. And the theory of eat the frog, right? The Mark
yeah.
Twain expression of
Yeah.
like, start with the hardest thing in the morning, blah, blah, blah. I will tell you this, and this runs contrary to what a lot of people say. I understand eat the frog. I've tried it. And I found that for me, it actually doesn't work as well as giving myself one or two quick wins. Like thinking 15, 20 minutes, I can knock some things out. Because I found for me the momentum of like seeing things disappear off my task list
Mm,
actually gives me that power to get through the rest of the morning or the rest of the day, more than spending an hour and a half on the really ugly thing first.
mm,
It's just how I'm wired. And I think a lot of what we should strive for is just know thyself. You don't know. Are you an eat the frog person? Is that your magic thing, or is it a momentum thing? The same way knowing about day parts. I'll give you an example. I know you want to jump in. I'll make this a quick
mm,
example, but knowing about chronotype, like at what time of day do you do things well? There's a famous screenwriter, Ron Bass, who was an attorney turned screenwriter, has written roles that, major movie stars have played. And he at a certain point told his family, hey, I can't talk to you in the morning. Like, daddy's not going to ask you what kind of cereal you want. Did you do your homework? How you get into school? Like, until that 9, I need to go write. And he explained to them, I can't hear my characters' voices once I've started talking with you.
mm-hmm.
So when I wake up in the morning, this is my chronotype, is like, I need to write down these things. And he's written the character dialogue that gets Julia Roberts, Dustin Hoffman, Tom Cruise, like, yeah, he's written Rain Man and My Best Friend's Wedding and like all this stuff. Where those actors, they have a pile of scripts with $20 million checks stapled on their desk and they get to choose. And somehow they choose his words. And he's like, it's because I understand my chronotype. Like, I need to have 5 to 9 a.m. without even acknowledging my family so I can hear how Julia would say this or how Dustin would
Mm,
say this. Anyway, you were about to say something a moment ago. I
mm.
rudely kept speaking.
It was going back to the eat the frog, and it just reminded me of productivity hacks or
Mhm.
tips that you see online, and the importance of, for somebody with ADHD, to not necessarily assume that every productivity hack or tip on the internet is actually going to be for
So
you.
true.
And you're not a failure if you can't work in that way, because I think I agree with you in terms of, if I start the biggest task of the day, or the most, it's probably because I haven't broken it down and I can make it last all day. So I won't do anything else. And I certainly agree with you. The momentum thing can be such a great catalyst, because you're saying, I'm good. Look, I sometimes have to, I love having, when I can't be bothered to use my sort of digital system, I've got little Post-it notes, and I love sticking them there and then transferring them to a pile here. And like,
It's satisfying, right?
and sometimes I write small, as tiny little tasks on there so I can see the pile go, get a little
Oh,
bit.
Lawrence, creating quick wins for yourself, it is
Yeah.
nothing to laugh about. It feels
Yeah.
great. I'm sorry. It just does. Like, life is short. Let us find ways each day to delight ourselves.
Mm,
You know,
mm, mm.
One of the things, like when you complete a task in the Sukha and you click the little complete thing, you get a little confetti.
Yeah.
Does it change anything? No. Does it make you feel better? Yeah. And it's like those little things where you just go, hey, man, look at this pile of Post-it notes. It makes you feel good. They're just Post-it notes. You've collected those wins. You go, actually, I am good at this. I'm in my lane. I'm doing what I'm meant to do. I do it with ease. That, I think, is a really great thing, because we will never get today again. Today, a day that reinforces for us, hey man, I feel good. We deserve that.
Yeah, I think it's really, really good. I mean, what I was going to say is I think it's really good to understand what's the word that I'm looking for? Is the novelty of things when you have ADHD. Is that even though you might find a system that works, there might come a time further down the road where you're just bored of that, and therefore it stops working. And therefore, again, like that learning, the learning mindset is to say, okay, I'm really struggling to do this because I'm bored. So what other options have I got? And forgive myself for maybe not doing the important thing, but doing something, and know that, okay, maybe I've got to juggle things around and try to see what works again. But yeah, understanding that novelty will throw a spanner in the works at some point.
Right.
So
Yes.
I'm just curious, in the time that we've got left, I'm thinking of the listeners and want to give them something, if they've worked from home or remote working, that tomorrow they're thinking to themselves, well, maybe I'm going to try that. I wonder if this is the best question to ask. Are there things that you are doing now that you perhaps weren't doing 10 years ago that have changed your productivity?
Yes. Fantastic question. And I can tell you exactly the biggest thing that I do now that helps me to be happy, which is I learned what a flow state is and how it applies for me. And I'll tell you, when I had my first experience, not knowing what it was, because it's different than hyperfocus, right? Is I was flying. I live in Austin. Laura and I live here, but I was going to SF to meet with my team. And I, on the flight, wanted to do some Figma designs of a feature that I wanted to illustrate. So we took off and we landed. And I was like, oh my God, something's horribly wrong. The engine fell off. We must have landed in Dallas and they're about to tell us, like, sorry, we can't continue the flight, right? We were in SF. I had completely missed 2 hours and 40 minutes, like just no conception of the drink cart, of anything happening. But my designs were done. And I was like, what just happened where I was concentrated and sort of the time fell away, the world fell away. There was no annoying, I couldn't even tell you who was sitting in the seat next to me. But I, at that point, was free to get off the plane and not run to my hotel to try and finish my designs for tomorrow morning's meeting. Go to dinner. And there's a great lobster roll place right by San Francisco airport that I love. So I was like, I'm going to go have a lobster roll. It's great. So I say all this because anything I'm about to say is not my being smart. It is my having read books by the smart people, because a number of people have written about this, right? The seminal book about this, where the name comes from, is a Hungarian American psychologist, Csikszentmihalyi, wrote a book called Flow. And his thesis was super simple. There are high performers who get into this weird concentrated state where they do great things for their career or for the world. How do they do it? What is it? Let me figure it out, right? So he ended up calling this thing flow because he said, I like the metaphor that you can be paddling and sort of your own power, like move forward. But when you get on the river and the river starts to carry you forward and like magnify your efforts, that's a flow state. So many people have different words for this. Michael Jordan has the famous quote about being in the zone, where he's like, when I'm in the zone, it's me and the ball. And it's like, there are no defenders. There's no scoreboard. It's just, I'm in the NBA finals. It's me and the ball. I'm going to win, right? Or there's a great Picasso quote I always mangle about, how he stayed up all night and was like, whoops, I didn't eat, didn't drink, didn't go to the bathroom, but, I painted Guernica. What do you think? Is it nice? You like it? And it's that sense of, oh, how do I harness that? That he, like Prometheus, was like, let me bring fire down to the common people. Like, okay, if they can do it, how do we do that? And there are some simple concepts. And again, they're free. You don't need to buy anyone's app. You don't need to buy anyone's book. You can just exercise these things, where he said, here's what I found to be true about flow states is they are when you're doing something and you have a particular skill set that applies to it. So it's not Michael Jordan painting. It's not Picasso playing basketball, right? It has to be challenging. It's not, Michael Jordan playing with 8th graders or something. It is Michael Jordan playing in the NBA, where you're challenged. You're at the edge of your skills. And you need to do this well to be there, right? So for me, Figma is challenging. Like illustrating this thing was challenging to me, where I was concentrated, and man, 2 hours and 40 minutes felt like 10. And he said, you have to believe it's meaningful. Like, you're not going to get a flow state like stapling reports together, you know?
Yeah.
You are going to have to believe that what you do is going to somehow affect your life, the lives of others, right? And so many people now have written about how music sometimes is a good hack to get into flow. And I actually have really nice headphones on, and I do not. If you find there are certain things that work for you, a lot of research says middle of the road is there's 60 to 90 beats per minute, kind of certain key signatures, ambient, non-vocal music that helps you just, your brain kind of like block out the world and get into that place, right? We all have the friend that to get into the flow state, like needs to listen to 90s gangster rap, and God bless them. Like they're the outlier,
Yeah.
death metal, whatever they do, right? But there are like middle of the road sort of things. I ended up, getting 1,000 hours of that from friends who are film composers, threw it in the app. It's like, oh, into these different playlists. So Brain FM, Endel, you can find on YouTube, like lots of places you can find like good flow music. And binaural beats, if anyone listening has played with binaural beats where the left and right channels going in your brain are slightly offset, it causes your brain to be stimulated in a slightly different way. It's a somewhat cutting edge technology. Like there's not decades of research on this, but there's a lot recently of people saying, oh, I feel more creative at this kind of, hertz, this sort of offset. I feel more focused, or I feel better with sleep at certain offsets. Experiment. Again, know yourself. Figure out your chronotype, figure out how you get into flow state. But I share this because when you ask me what's the biggest change, is really understanding that a flow state is kind of this magical thing when I need to do something meaningful. And if you were to be very reductive about my app, the Sukha Company, the website is a flow state website. Just most people don't know that name. So that is my answer. Flow states.
And just to sort of clarify how you have adapted your flow state, and because you've mentioned it a few times that your chronotype, do you try and engage with your flow state at a particular time of the day where you're going to get the best, like the author, the writer you said has to write in the morning? Is that what you're saying? Is know yourself
I realize this, and I know that having a child soon, I will have to be super disciplined with my time, because there's not like, you can't be loosey-goosey. Yes. The answer to your question is, I realize that when I go to the gym around 5 a.m, get back and shower until around the time you and I are talking, in that window, that is when I can do actually like clarity of thought, deep work, as Cal Newport calls it, that thing where you go, this moves my life forward. And there are breaks during the day. Oh, I have an hour between this and that. Oh, okay, return some emails, check my Slack, pay some bills, do whatever, right? And at the end of the day, when it's quiet, I can do some work that's not deeply taxing. I used to think when I was coding more, oh, it's that late night culture of staying up all night as an engineer, developer, like coding. And I realized it was hacky. It would move forward in a way, but it wasn't the clean kind of really efficient code that I write early in the morning. So I say this because in my exploration of how I work best, yes, I've definitely learned about my chronotype. I've definitely learned about the things that help me get into a flow state, the kind of activities I schedule for the morning. Like before our chat today, there are very specific things I was doing. And I encourage people to just do that, because it's like, you can do it the hard way or do it the easy way. I should choose the easy way or way.
You also mentioned a word in your description of flow, meaningful. It has to be meaningful. And I think what sticks out to me sometimes when I'm working with clients, part of the distraction can come from not necessarily enjoying what it is that they're doing, and not finding a real purpose in what it's ticking boxes for somebody else, essentially.
Yes.
And I think this can sound like it's a bit of a luxury for some people to maybe take a step back and figure these things out. But sometimes if you are feeling burnt out because for some reason you don't quite fit within the shape of the job that you're in, sometimes it does help to take a step back and say, what is my purpose? What is my ikigai? And what can bring more meaning to my life, so that we can engage in that flow state more, and flow state for something that is valuable to you and not just for the paycheck. And I think
you touch upon something I think it's kind of deep, and let's go there, before we wrap, which is there are many things that you and I will do during our day that don't really affect the world or move our lives forward. Yeah, I'll return the emails that came to me. I'll check my Slacks, things like that, right? To do the things where my life changes or the life of my team, those don't happen in between Zooms in 15-minute increments, or I have 17 minutes before my next thing, right? So if you are an individual contributor, right? If you're actually doing the work or you're a leader, the concept of how do we allocate time for those meaningful things that change the course of our lives, that has to be respected. You can't say, oh, I'm the boss, and you schedule meetings like every 2 hours. You have a Zoom meeting with a different set of the team, and just everyone's continually in a chaotic sort of state. Like, I'll tell you something we do is between 9 and 11 in the mornings, we don't book meetings, and we each other. Slack I found to be a huge distraction. Matter of fact, with Sukha, when you start, it puts your Slack in away mode. So if someone Slacks you, it says Steven's in a focus session, so that there's no pressure on me to get back to them, because they know I'm not going to get back to them right that moment. It's not that I'm not working. It's not that I'm ignoring them. I'm in a focus session. So if you respect that, it's really powerful, because imagine the difference between going, into a staff meeting with your team or leading a staff meeting and saying, okay, well, I returned all my emails. Who cares? Or saying, I had this idea and I kind of sketched it out this morning, and the rest of your team looks at it and goes like, that changes the trajectory of our company. Like we should do that. What Lawrence said, because they're not going to say that about like, I had 17 minutes and I returned my emails. Who cares?
Yeah.
To do that deep work. And that's a lot of Cal Newport stuff. By the way, anyone listening to this who's like, I would love to learn more about Cal Newport or what Near wrote or whatever it is, you can put my email address in the show notes. They can email me. I'm happy to send them back an email saying, oh, here's a great link to, Mihai's book or Cal's blog post or whatever. It will not be a long email. I try to return all my emails in 24 hours if I'm not sick or traveling. I can't write you back 19 paragraphs of the story of my life, but I'm happy to go, oh, you want to know more about this? Here's a great thing to read.
Well, fantastic. That's a good note to end on. But just remind the listeners where they can find the Sukha online and what they can expect.
The Sukha's a simple website. It's free for 7 days, no credit card. Try it. If you love it, sign up. It is at thesukha.co, which is THESUKHA.co for the Sukha Company, the happiness company. Yeah, and drop in the group chat. Say hi. And say, hey, I was listening to on Lawrence's podcast.
Absolutely. I recommend everybody go and check it out and take a look. So listen, Steven, it's been a wonderful conversation. I'm sure we could have gone on for a lot longer, but it's been fascinating. And yeah, I'd love to have you back on again in the future to tell us more stories. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Been a great pleasure. Well, there we have it. Thank you so much for listening this far. If you want to hear more episodes, then please subscribe on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you use. It really helps to spread the word. So if you know anyone this episode could help, then please share it with your friends. If you want to follow me on social media, I am on Instagram at ADHD_goals, and you can find me on Facebook too. If you want to get in touch with the show, then you can email me at hello@adhdgoals.co. And finally, if you're struggling to manage your ADHD and you would like me to be your coach, then please head over to my website and get in touch. Until next time, bye for now.